alerts FBI agents off child predator cases. Second one, FBI director backtracks on administration's proposed budget cuts. And number three, Trump administration says 70% of ICE detainees do not have criminal convictions.
Without objection. Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you. Director, earlier this year, the committee learned of new documents tied to the Crossfire hurricane investigation and the Russia collusion hoax against President Trump. Your efforts in declassifying key documents tied to this investigation allowed the committee to acquire thousands of pages that it did not have previously. Did any of your predecessors make any effort to declassify these documents?
Not to the extent we have.
Did any of your predecessors share or leak any details that were classified at the time?
There are ongoing leak investigations across the board at the Bureau related to this.
I believe one of those is Mr. Comey, and I thank you for continuing that investigation. Among the declassified documents are the Durham Report Annex, the Crossfire Binder, and the Nellie Orr Criminal Referral. Could you summarize for those watching what we know about the Russia collusion hoax so far?
But it does help.
Well, sir, I think the record will speak that the Russia collusion matter was perpetrated by a political party to go overseas and obtain information from a foreign intelligence asset, only to have that information, which was demonstrably false, turned over to the FBI, who walked into a federal FISA secret court and asked for a secret surveillance court order and lied to the federal court. We know that because someone was convicted of it, and only to surveil their political opponent. So that is a massive scandal. We helped expose it. And in terms of the pages of productions, I provided 1,400 pages of production related to Crossfire Hurricane, and my predecessors have provided 0.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your courage and commitment to declassifying these important documents for our review, and hope that you'll continue with this commitment. Can we expect to see more declassification efforts regarding the Crossfire Hurricane and Russia collusion hoax?
Yes.
Thank you. I yield the remaining balance of my time to Chairman.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. And Director, that's when it all started, right? Old Russia, that's when it all began, and then...
And he's not just aiming that weaponry at Ukrainian folks.
Battlefield ready again. Behind you, my friend. You're not in this alone.
You're halfway there. Keep going. Get ready to do some damage. Almost there. Don't turn back now.
There will be others that will join in the legislation.
More help is never bad.
We're gonna move this legislation. We're gonna move.
They ain't seen nothing
We're gonna
yet.
seize Russian assets. With our legislation. And what good is that?
Get that vehicle moving again.
Born again!
Getting close to full force.
Battlefield ready again.
Let me heal you. Goodbye for now.
By the eye of Agamotto!
Get that vehicle moving again. Reborn from the chaos. Goodbye for now.
We're talking cash.
Keep moving. The gods will not stay patient for long. You are under my step.
Still got an edge.
Behold! That child! Double KO!
Here they come.
Ah, that's better. My fate is in sea now, a disappearing act. Get that vehicle moving again! You're not going anywhere! Only 60 seconds left!
Extermination!
Hell unleashed!
Born again!
Disappearing. Vehicle reached the checkpoint. Keep up the momentum. I feel Reborn, goodbye. For now. Feeling stronger already. Disappearing.
Let's get this by the eye of Agamotto!
Take out every single
Get that vehicle moving again! Feeling stronger already. Now, a disappearing.
Extermination! Ultra Ring still got an edge. I'll kill you up. Repairs are in order.
Oh, back! Weakling! Chaos control! You stood no chance against the warrior four. That did the trick! You're halfway there. Keep going! Behold! That child! That's better.
Asgard's might! Born again!
Almost there. Don't turn back now. A disappearing.
By the eye of Agamotto! I have suffered severe damage.
but he hasn't.
Only 60 seconds left. The vehicle reached a checkpoint. Keep up the momentum.
He purely looks at this as from cost benefit. Human life doesn't matter to him.
At last,
We're
our
going to
enemies
make it
show
very, very
themselves.
close. We do.
Under my spell.
I don't want the United States.
That's it! Don't let anything stand in your way.
Extermination!
I'll get you next time. Get that vehicle moving again! Fate isn't sealed yet.
By the eye of Agamotto!
You are under my spell.
Born again!
Your shield should do nicely.
Extermination!
Hell unleashed! Only 60 seconds left.
Ultra Blade Supreme!
I won't make the same mistakes again.
Iran controlled the Middle East. Thank God for Israel.
You're not going anywhere. Get that vehicle moving again!
Not the first thing anyone points to. Number one concern is all is the weaponization of the government against the American citizens. So, are there things that you're doing, structural reforms that implementing so that the FBI cannot be weaponized again, whether it's against President Trump or future legislators?
Shouldn't be weaponized against anyone. And the structural reform is simple. So you're going to go after there has to be a grounded basis in law.
You'll have to keep fighting until we
Open
have a
up a
winner.
criminal investigation, and if there's not, the investigation. I've also gone back and reviewed
here is
other
not
cases
done.
that were open in prior administrations related to public officials. We closed the number because some of these actions were weaponized on either side of the law. I felt it wholly inappropriate for the FBI
of Agamotto!
when there was no factual or legal basis to continue those investigations. I shut them down.
And I think that's so desperately needed because we need to restore
Well,
trust
you can't
in
expect
law
to win 'em
enforcement,
all.
certainly in the DOJ and the FBI, so that the American people don't fear the very government that is supposed to protect them. Thank you for doing that. On August 11th, you released to the committee documents concerning leak investigations that began in 2017. Do you believe these leaks were accidental or were they intentional in order to influence public opinion against President Trump?
When I can publicly make a final decision on that, either through a recommendation of charging that the DOJ makes or findings that I have, I'm able to do so, but they're still not.
Pick your hero. Or villain.
Why did
I'm
the
not
FBI
judging.
under Director Comey want to undermine the Trump administration?
You don't have to be a witch to find the
Think it might have been
magic in
political.
this world. But it does help.
How will Director Comey be held accountable for his leaks and classified information concerning the Russian collusion?
Well, anyone. It doesn't matter what you did before or what seat you were in. If you leaked classified information, that's illegal. And we will investigate it fully. And if we can bring enough evidence to recommend charges to the Department of Justice, we will. But as you know, in these leak investigations, it's very difficult to produce the information necessary.
Magneto
We know leaks
raised
happen.
me to never
They
stop
literally
fighting
happen every
for what
week. It's
I
one of the
believe
most
is
destructive
right.
things in this country. Media receives classified information beneficial
30
to one side
seconds
or the
before
other.
you attack.
I'm a
Get
fan of none
ready.
of it, and I want to shut all of it down. And we need to bring some real cases to deter individuals from doing that. And that's my focus.
I've been told that before.
What was Comey's role
That kind
in
of
creating
violence
the
isn't
ICA?
really my style. If you
Speaking from my memory, as the head of the FBI, he was charged under then Director Brennan,
The battle
Director
starts in
Clapper,
5,
and the other IC
4,
elements to come in with the
3,
NSA, CIA,
2,
FBI,
1.
and ODNI
All you
to
need to
put
do
together a
is capture
collection
the
of
mission area.
information on
Got it?
how
Perfect.
the information
get them
sort of
until they
surrounding
come
Russia
forward to
came
walk
together.
away?
So he represented the FBI.
As former director of CIA, John Brennan, he's denied that the Steele dossier was used in creating the ICA. Is that true?
Well, it's, without commenting on him, FISA has been released. The dossier was in the FISA before FISA.
Well, former director Brennan actually denied repeatedly that he pushed the Steele dossier to be
You're not going to.
I'll let his testimony speak for itself, but then Deputy Director testified at the House Intelligence Committee now that were there no steals custody.
My time's getting close, but let me tell you this, sir, and well, my colleague from Texas said, thank you for the job you're
My
doing. You're
fate
making the
isn't
American
sealed yet.
people
No,
safe.
a disappearance
You're restoring
area.
trust in these agencies that we so many of us have lost trust in. So thank you for the work you're doing. That thin blue line, you're doing a fine job, and we want to let you know we appreciate it. Thank you.
We've been discovered.
Any from California directors?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Director, for coming here today. And actually, thank you for your response to my colleague from New York. You said that there is violent extreme ideology on both sides, and I think you actually alluded to that same statement yesterday. I do have some questions I'd like to ask you. Got your questions. Please, what you deem to be false. So Dylan Ruth, who followed white supremacist propaganda, murdered 9 black parishioners in Charleston in 2015.
Sorry. Dylan Roof? Roof, can you give me some information?
Head of the FBI, you probably know. If you don't know, that's fine. Okay.
Can you give me a reminder?
It was nationally. Robert Bowers murdered 11 Jewish worshipers in Pittsburgh in 2018, and it was the deadliest anti-Semitic attack. So do you admit that happened?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just asking for a little information.
I've got your back.
Patrick Cruces, who posted a manifesto about a Hispanic invasion, walked into a Walmart in El Paso, Texas in 2019 and began firing. He murdered 23 people that day. The youngest was 15. You admitted that happened.
It's fighting
Well, I
time!
have to say, all of these cases have been adjudicated. As I said, they are not gotcha questions. These incidents are national news. So, and as director of the FBI, you have access to all of this information. So in 2022, Peyton Brendan walked into a supermarket in a black neighborhood in Buffalo, New York, and started shooting. He murdered 10 people that day. And on September 10th,
Chaos
your
surrounds
friend
us,
Charlie Kirk
but I will
was
gladly
assassinated.
show
Tyler
it who's in
Robinson has
control.
been taken into custody and charged, but also on that day, Desmond Holly, a 16-year-old
don't
white
have to
male,
be a witch
shot and
to
injured
find
2
the
students at a
magic in
high
this
school in
world.
Colorado
30 seconds before you
before
attack.
killing
Get
himself. And
ready.
according to the Anti-Defamation League, he had a fascination with mass shootings and white supremacy. So do you admit to, deny these facts?
When mutants
Okay.
are in danger,
Your predecessor, former FBI Director Christopher Wray, said that one of the most dangerous concerns is that racially
battle starts in
motivated
5,
violent extremism,
4,
especially
3,
white supremacists,
2,
has been the
1.
biggest chunk of our domestic
All you need to do
terrorism
is capture the
cases
mission area.
and is
Got it?
responsible for the most lethal attacks over the last decade. Do you admit or deny, A, that he said this?
I'll let the record reflect that, whatever he said.
All right, and do you agree?
There is,
I am ready to put on a show!
Especially white supremacists was the biggest chunk of our domestic terrorism. I'm glad that you said that. So last week, President Trump was asked if there were extremists on both the left and the right. He was actually asked this by Fox and Friends, and his exact words were, "I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime.
I'm
The
opening a
radicals on
portal.
the left are the problem, and they're
Judge,
vicious, and they're horrible,
jury,
and they're politically
executioner!
savvy." Do you agree with the president?
I don't speak for the president speaks for himself.
Do you
A
agree with the
shortcut through space.
On what matter?
on the question that I just asked? Do you agree with his statement about the radical left?
There's ideology that's driving violence on both sides.
Enemies on the earth.
No, but I'm glad that you're saying that. And actually, and I'm glad that you
Literally
are
nothing.
acknowledging that there is violent extremism on both sides. What's interesting is that the research arm of the Department of Justice, the National Institute of Justice, do you know what that is?
I'm familiar with that.
Okay, great. It is the research arm of the Department of Justice, and it published an article in 2024 devoted to domestic radicalization, violent extremism, and terrorism. I have it. It's interesting that it's on the website. It has been scrubbed, but I ask these questions because what makes a strong, qualified director of any business, of any household, of the FBI, what makes a reputable prosecutor is not lapdog loyalty, but a commitment to the creed that evidence is agnostic and that the evidence will lead you to making the right decision. Your job, no one's job is to like the data or evidence, it is to collect it. That is how you gain truth. And Mr. Chair, I would like to enter into the record, if I may. White supremacist group stands by racist ideology. Dylan Root, the radicalization of the alt-right and ritualized racial violence. Thank you.
Shall I throw a gullet?
Another article, how Robert Bowers went from conservative to white nationalist. Patrick Priestley believed he was fulfilling Trump's wishes in El Paso attack, his attorney said. I can enter into the record. Buffalo shooting, how far-right killers are radicalized online. Evergreen High School shooters online activity reveals fascination with
Executioner!
murder and extremism in the United States in 2024. By the Anti-Defamation. And the article, the report that was scrubbed from the DOJ just recently. National Institute of Justice Journal focusing on domestic radicalization, violent extremism, and terrorism. I'd like to enter that into the record.
Without objection.
And lastly, the libertarian think tank Cato and their analysis on violent extremism and the right rising
Well, you can't
extremism.
expect to win them all.
Like exactly. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Wyoming.
Just very quickly, Director Patel, thank you for being here, for your service to this country, and for the transparency that you have brought to the FBI and for the American people. Transparency that was absolutely non-existent in the Biden administration and FBI. I believe that you might have been asked earlier about whether you had had an opportunity to visit with any of Epstein's legal counsel. Were you asked that question earlier?
I think so.
Okay. One of the legal counsels or legal fixers for Mr. Epstein was Stacey Plaskett, the Democrat delegate to Congress from the Virgin Islands.
You don't
So
have to be
perhaps
a
for those
witch
on
to
the
find
other
the
side who are
magic in this
interested in
world.
talking to
But it
Jeffrey
does
Epstein's
help.
attorneys, they could sure visit with one of their own colleagues. I want to focus on something that I think is very important that has not been addressed enough today, and that is related to the consequences of the Biden open border. One consequence of the Biden border crisis is the impact that it continues to have on our tribal communities, with the cartels taking advantage of our open borders, the Mexican drug cartels, by infiltrating our reservations, bringing violence, drugs, murder, trafficking, and more. Last year, when I questioned the Attorney General Garland about what the DOJ was doing to protect these communities, he simply deflected responsibility and said that Congress had not appropriated sufficient resources for them to be able to protect our tribal communities. Mr. Patel, what is the Trump FBI doing to counter the drug cartel infiltration and other violent crime targeting our Native American communities?
Got it?
Thank you. It only took more than half of this proceeding to talk about one of the priorities that the FBI has, which is crimes on tribal lands. Every single crime that we have been talking about,
And so it begins.
child predators, human trafficking, narco traffickers, murder, they all happen on tribal lands. And I've said this to be this is a priority. I belong on tribal land. And I'm the first FBI I invited them into my office headquarters see them, because I need engagement leadership. Otherwise, we're not going to break through. We have 1,900 country cases open right now. We've got 600 deaths this year alone. We cannot forget every single one of those people. It is an absolute priority to protect them and their children just as it is anyone else.
So I think it's fair to say that what Mary Garland testified to, that the FBI and DOJ did not have the resources to address that. I think that was an absolutely false statement. Would you agree with me?
At
the end of August, the U.S. Attorney and FBI announced that nearly 100 personnel representing members of the Safe Trails Task Force operated in the Wind River Reservation to assist with reducing drug trafficking and illegal guns. Director Patel, you have routinely stated that it is your mission to partner with and strengthen local and state law enforcement partners. How does the task force and other FBI efforts bring tribal law enforcement into this process?
Major problem with tribal lands is coverage that they have on land.
We captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going. Control
Unsolicited resources to tribal lands across this country on a 30, 60, 90 basis, reporting back to us saying who needs more. And what we found is that most of these lands can be assisted by our counter-UAS program, our drone capabilities. We're going to do it because what's happening is the Mexican drug cartels are literally flying overhead, dropping their cargo, their narcotics onto this land where no one's looking, and then it's being disseminated to children, to youth, who's else on that land, and killing them. We got to stop it before it gets dropped.
Well, and your testimony proves that the Biden administration does not lack the resources to address drug and violent crime in tribal communities or around the United States. It instead expended and wasted these resources investigating parents, Catholics, and now find out Turning Point USA, the RNC, and Republican organizations, rather than protecting our Native Americans by closing the border.
Double KO. Their team's capture progress has
Thank you, and I do appreciate the work that you've done in this regard. I was previously the chairman of the subcommittee on the Indian and Insular Affairs with the Natural Resources Committee, and safety and security on our reservations and for our tribal members has been one of our priorities, one of my priorities, and I very much appreciate the work that the FBI has done. Let me know if there's anything else I can do to help you with that.
Lady, you'll back to
Past 2 months, the country has experienced a string of horrific high-profile attacks on motivated by religion or ideology. These are attacks at CDC headquarters, firing hundreds of rounds at police officers, arsonists prior to the Pennsylvania governor, Josh Shapiro's residence, her husband was assassinated Charlie Kirk was murdered last week. Threats have been made against HBCUs and the DNC. I only have just a few minutes today, so I don't want to take a lot of time to go into all the countless and devastating violent crimes and incidents that have happened at our schools or on our streets and in our communities that have just been happening all year long. Mr. Patel, just yes or no, is this type of political violence
I've watched
ever
entire
acceptable in
realities
your life?
consumed by chaos. I won't let that happen
I'm
again.
glad that we agree that these heinous acts designed to instill fear and division in our nation are
There's
never,
something
ever
about this
acceptable.
place.
Yet each of these
30
incidents
seconds
has
before you
recently
attack.
taken
Get
place under
ready.
your watch. The FBI's website states that protecting the United States from terrorist acts is the FBI's #1 priority, including from domestic terrorism.
You are
Is
one
this
of a
still
kind.
your #1 priority?
That doesn't mean
Domestic terrorism?
alone.
Preventing domestic terrorism.
Our #1 priorities are protecting the homeland and international terrorism.
The battle starts in 5,
Domestic terrorism
4,
sort of interlated.
3, 2,
So, well,
1.
then I'm glad that you're
All
giving
you
us
need
the
to do
right
is capture
answer,
the
but
mission area.
unfortunately,
Got it?
your actions kind of tell a different
I don't think I could handle the
Earlier
pressure
this
of the
year,
dark
you
force.
granted the ranks of the FBI's Domestic Terrorism Operations Section. This is the section of the FBI
Get
that
ready.
is the regular attacks from occurring and effectively responding to the
agency, this section are the ones who
Maximum pulse!
plan to attack schools, bombs made by an ISIS sympathizer. Instead of ensuring that this section has all the resources that it needs at the time when its mission is its decorated veteran FA agents have served their country proudly under Republican and Republican presidents, and the strategies that they developed
Most of that. The amount of cases we brought against nihilists. After that rapid sentence, these tragic occurrences across the country somehow singularly my fault or disgusting because that watershed
Mr. Patel, I'm going to reclaim my time. Mr. Patel,
they are not responsible for it. I'm happy to work with you to get them what they need.
Young lady controls the time. Unanimous consent request.
Thank you very much. Into the record, article numbers tells FBI to inspect staffing, domestic terrorism, probe sources. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Patel, and it isn't just the domestic terrorism operations section. Under your watch, agents are fully diverting their attention to these anti-immigrant and city takeover operations, leaving our children vulnerable to dangerous networks of online predators, both domestic and international. You pulled more than 120 FBI agents from their normal duties to operate sobriety checks and conduct traffic stops, exposing the FBI on marked cars and thereby making it harder for the FBI to combat
always prevails.
Drug traffickers.
That's simply not true. We were not able to do two things at one time. How would we record amounts of fentanyl? 23,000 violent felons have been arrested. More than twice as many.
Thank you very much. In this
Again!
article from Reuters, which goes along with the policies agents once covered child exploitation cases, but now focus on immigration calculations. Thousands of immigration tracked down. Mr. Patel, in the short time I have left, your tenure as director of FBI has been somewhat problematic. Americans are less safe, less safe, Your job is to protect and serve the American public.
I'm the young lady.
Spend your time protecting heinous individuals and using the FBI to serve as a political circus. The times that we appear unequipped, I'm the country, and I yield.
Young lady yields
May I
back.
respond?
Sure can.
My
Simply
fate
put-
isn't sealed now. A disappearing.
What is it? Are we failing?
They've almost done it!
If we're failing, how are we arresting 23,000 violent felons? Twice as many as this time last year. Are we failing? Because if we're failing, how are we seizing 1,500 kilograms of meth, 25% increase from last year? Are we failing? Because we captured 4 top 10 FBI's most wanted from around the world in 7 months. That's more than the entirety of the last administration. Are we failing? Because we put 1,500 child predators in prison. Are we failing because we dismantled 300 human trafficking networks? Which is it? You don't like me, that's fine. But don't you dare disparage the men and women of the FBI that are producing record results of historic facts to protect this country. They are kicking ass for Americans.
Armed and dangerous!
When I was home recently, I met with the agents leading the Tampa office of the FBI, and I saw what they're focused on in my community: stopping drug traffickers, rescuing children from exploitation, fighting cybercrime, protecting us from acts of terrorism, foreign and domestic. And I know from my time as a federal prosecutor and a judge that this work by the Bureau doesn't make headlines, but it is happening every single day. At the top, Accountability is necessary, transparency is critical, but today we've seen an effort not just to diminish, but to
Chaos
distort
surrounds us.
the work of
But I
Director
will
Patel
gladly
and the
show it
agents
who
he
is in
leads. If
control.
we really care about transparency and about truth, then what we owe to the American people is
30
this
seconds before you
reality
attack.
that
Get
thousands
ready.
of dedicated professionals at the FBI wake up every single day
Do you have a
thinking not
problem
about
with me? I
themselves
should
but about
know
this
about
country
them.
and keeping every single one of
Years of
us and our
unnecessary
children
pain and
safe from
strife
harm.
you
And Director
caused my
Patel,
people.
I would like to hear
Whatever
from
your
you
Wanda
the
Maximoff
facts
did.
about what the
That
FBI
blood is
is
not
doing
on
in
my
your
hands.
efforts to fight crime.
yet there
Director
you
Patel,
are,
isn't it correct that since January
The battle
20th,
starts in
2025, the
5,
FBI
4,
has made over
3,
25,000 immigration-related arrests, including
All you need to do is
350
capture the
members of
mission area.
Train de
Got
Aragua
it?
and 195 members of MS-13.
Those numbers are accurate. The Tren de Aragua numbers are up over 350% from before.
And during that same period, hasn't the FBI seized over 66,000 kilos of cocaine, 6,000 kilos of meth, and 1,500 kilos of fentanyl?
Not to be nitpicky, but it's 89,000 kilos of cocaine.
And isn't it also true that the FBI tampered with the Santa Monica Turnpike Force specifically seized nearly 67,000 kilos of cocaine valued at more than $1.6 billion from illicit maritime vessels?
One of our best operations out of the Port of Tampa, and I was down there in South
Capture the
Florida.
mission area.
Annexed it there.
Director Patel, since October 7th, 2023 Hamas attack, the FBI has been a co-leader of the Joint Task Force October 7th. Isn't it correct that this task force is actively working to bring justice for victims and to prevent terrorist infiltration at our borders?
toy is out.
Since January 20th, hasn't the FBI arrested 59 foreign intelligence operatives for spying or smuggling dangerous material into the United States?
Yes, we have. And that's on track to be 25%.
And the FBI has also been leading operations against major cyber threat actors, including those from Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. Isn't that right?
17% increase from year-to-date last year.
Director Patel, the FBI's child exploitation task forces continue to investigate predators who target children online and across
My
our
fate isn't
communities.
sealed yet.
How significant is that threat today, and what results have you seen under your tenure in
team's
bringing
capture
these
progress
offenders to
has passed
justice?
the halfway
We
point.
have, under Operation Gray Skull, dismantled dark web units that are operating online, not just online, across the world through our children.
The move!
The FBI do, and continue to do. Those are the real results when you let good cops be cops. Let us get on these platforms, expose them to the public, give them up. These predators on these online gaming systems, social media, we need Congress to allow us more authority.
The FBI laboratory manages the combined DNA index system, or CODIS, which compares over 25 million DNA profiles and aids more than 125 investigations each day. Director Patel, why is this important to law enforcement nationwide?
All of law enforcement requires to see this operation on West Virginia. What that does is 19,000 agencies come in and say, hey, does this guy have a criminal history? Hey, is this an illegal firearm? Do we have a DNA hit like we did in these recent assassinations? That's what the FBI brings to bear, because local and state law enforcement agencies doesn't have that capability, and we're doing it 24/7, 365. CJIS does not close for 1 minute.
In your testimony, you noted that the FBI has ongoing counterintelligence investigations into China, Iran, and Russia across all 55 field offices. Why is it essential to maintain that scope of coverage, and what success can you achieve in disrupting nation-state actors?
Our biggest threats involving nation-state actors are the PRC, Russia, and China, and they are up 33%, 83%, and 60% respectively in arrests alone this year. Those nation-state actors wish to do harm in our infrastructure, our critical infrastructure system, our energy, our water supply, and also go after and target individuals and senior citizens and take their money through online pig butchering schemes, which we've exposed in Cambodia by way of the CCP. This is groundbreaking work that the American public should be seeing that their FBI is doing, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to report on it.
Thank you, Director Patel. I yield back.
Pick your
Gentleman
hero.
goes back to you,
Or
gentleman.
villain. I'm not judging.
Your name is consent?
Thank you so much, I appreciate it. In response
don't
to Mr.
have to be a
Patel's making
witch
the
to find the
remarks
magic in this
that
world.
maybe our
But
colleagues
it
are
does help.
disparaging the men and women of the FBI, I'd like to enter the record 3 unanimous consent requests. One is entitled FBI using polygraphs to test officials' loyalty. The second is Cash Patel knowingly broke law when firing top officials, lawsuit alleges, published by NBC. And the third is FBI forces out more leaders,
Magneto raised
including
you never stop fighting for
ex-director
what I
who fought
believe is
Trump,
right.
demand for January 6th agents' names.
Without objection.
30
Only
seconds
from
before you
Vermont's
attack.
recognized.
Thank you,
Get
Mr.
ready.
Chair. Director
Don't
Patel,
have to
thank
be a
you for
witch
being
to
with
find
us
the
today.
magic in
Appreciate
this
your
world.
time.
But
Let
it
me
does
say at the
help.
top, political violence should have no place in this country, and I strongly, unequivocally condemn the killing of Charlie Kirk last week. And this is exactly the kind of case that warrants a swift and thorough investigation by the FBI. What shouldn't be happening, however, is this administration's seeming attempt to exploit Mr. Kirk's death within minutes of this horrible, horrible assassination, dividing us even further without knowing enough about the killer's complicated, confused political ideology and the extent of his motivation. And this week, Vice President Vance claimed that this is, quote, an extremely destructive movement of left-wing extremism, and said that, quote, it's part of the reason why Charlie was killed. He pledged to go after organizations on the left. But Director Patel, it was just 3 months ago that Melissa Portman, a Minnesota House Speaker, and her husband Mark were shot to death in their home in the middle of the night by a self-identified right-wing extremist and Trump supporter. When that assassination happened, the FBI released a written statement denouncing the killing and pledging to hold the killer accountable. And I thank the Bureau for that. It was clear, concise, to the point. But when you compare that statement to the over 50 mentions of the Charlie Kirk killing and just 4 for the Horton on accounts affiliated with the FBI and your personal account, it appears to many Americans that you're valuing some lives more than others, and that's painful. And this is what I'm hearing from my constituents. I just want to convey that to you. And the Vice President didn't even call on right-wing organizations to tone down their rhetoric after that horrific killing in Minnesota. And he never once spoke about dismantling conservative institutions. This week, when the president was asked by a reporter about Speaker Horton, he claimed he didn't even know who she was. One of the most high-profile assassinations of an elected official in recent memory, and the president claims to know nothing about it, hasn't even heard of it, was absolutely devastating for her colleagues and for her family. And I think we all can agree in this room that we have to stop this political violence. So my first question to you is, Director Patel, what is your plan as director of the FBI to turn down the temperature, especially in light of the fact that it seems like members of the administration are reacting to political violence based on party affiliation? What's your plan?
I can only speak for myself and the FBI, and what we are doing is, like I mentioned earlier, we're following the money, because whatever attack you are describing, and they are obviously equally so, people need money to operate. People need money to protect themselves.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
The people that supported this process, because even when you say there's a lone, quote-unquote, lone wolf actor, he's not truly a lone wolf actor. Something happened.
I agree, and so can I just because we have such little time, are you making a commitment right now to follow where the evidence goes, investigating violence on the left and the right? Because over the last 10 years, when you look at the ideology, I want to follow up on what my colleague from California said. When you look at the data, you look at the Anti-Defamation League data, 96% of ideological motivated killings were committed by the right wing. When you look at the Institute of Justice report that she cited, it's 5 times the number that 5 times the number of far-left extremist incidents are perpetrated by far right. And it's been reported, and she mentioned this, that as of September 12th, 2025, just 2 days after Charlie Kirk's killing, that the DOJ removed that report from the DOJ website. That's why Americans are concerned that there seems to be a separate system of justice
that if you are a Republican and you are attacked, you will get the full weight and authority of the FBI and this administration. But if you are somebody serving in the Minnesota State Legislature and you are assassinated in your home, that the response is different. And I think to ignore the threats from the right or try to do a both and when there are multiple instances when it's overwhelmingly coming from the right, this is a disservice because Americans want to know that whoever they are, whatever their political affiliation, that the response is going to be the same. And it is going to be done with the same diligence. And I'm wondering if you will commit to me right now that you will be a voice right now standing up to those voices in the administration that are adding to the violent rhetoric. That's what I'm asking you. Will you commit to this?
My voice will be through the investigations that the FBI conducts, and we will conduct them all lawfully and legally.
Can we expect in the future that your tweets in related to one killing will be the same level of concern?
The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you, sir.
I have
Director
made
Patel.
my share of mistakes.
Thank you for being here today,
But I
and
am
most
fighting
importantly,
every
thank you for
day
restoring
to make
trust and faith in the FBI, which has been severely eroded under the Biden administration. Thank you for your service and your continued service in this capacity. On April 7, 2025, Charlie posted on X, "Assassination culture is spreading from the left. 48% of liberals say it would be at least somewhat justified to murder Elon Musk. 55% say the same about Donald Trump. And California activists are naming ballot measures after Luigi Mangione. The left is being whipped into a violent frenzy and set back. Whether losing an election or losing a court case justifies a maximally violent response," end quote. And unfortunately for Charlie, that reaction also came when they couldn't win a debate on a college campus. You cannot be intellectually honest and say that this problem is on both sides. It's not just what happened to President Trump, it's also what just happened to Charlie. We've gotten to a point in America where violence is encouraged. We have a former president of the United States that opens up his campaign in 2019, that's Joe Biden, by saying that his opponent is a, quote, existential threat to this country. Houston, the problem. People that you disagree with are not existential threats. They are not Nazis. They are not fascists. They are not racist. They are not deplorable. They are not irredeemable. They are your fellow Americans who have a different perspective on how government should run and what government should look like. Whether or not we should have strong sovereign borders, whether or not we should have safe communities, whether or not we should have places to worship our God and not worry about being shot, whether or not we live in communities and cities that are not overwhelmed by drugs and crime, whether or not we have two genders, and whether or not we have common sense in our policies and our values. If people that believe these things are not existential threats, I happen to be one of these people that believes all of the above, and as someone that served this country in combat, I can assure you I am not an existential threat to this country because I swore to protect her. I also want to point out, how many cities have you seen burned to the ground since Charlie Kirk's death? 0. No summer of love, no riots, no nothing, no looting, no killing. None. You simply gathered and prayed for his soul, his family, and his country. Because that's exactly what we represent. And while we might be angry, this righteous anger will carry on Charlie's message and legacy. I want everybody to know something very simple. Charlie is not dead because of what he said. He is dead because people
I am
listen.
ready to put on a show.
My time is limited, so I have a few questions for you, sir. And again, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate your time and your service. In your experience in the FBI, have you noticed a precipitous rise in political violence and other associated crimes that you have been investigating so far this year? And if so, is this trend in motive left-wing or right-wing violence?
I can only speak generally, sir. There is too much political violence. It has been a political violence.
How do we solve this?
We solve this by giving the FBI more authorities to go into and work with the private sector. There are too many online platforms, there are too many social media platforms, places for people from America and around the world to get together without their parents knowing anything about it, without their school teachers knowing anything about it, and infecting the minds of our children, infecting them with radical ideology, and that is the root cause of these problems, and we must tackle it. It is not a 1950s America anymore. In 2025, the cyberspace.
Switching gears, when your predecessor sat right there in that seat last year in a committee hearing, I asked a very detailed question about Matthew Thomas Crook, the shooter responsible for the assassination attempt on President Trump's life. I did get an answer from Chris Wray that day, and I submitted written questions to the FBI and into the record of this committee, and I want to resubmit those questions today because I think we are still awaiting answers to those questions. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit them for the record, please. I'd like to ask you, sir, and the FBI, under your leadership, would you please respond to these questions and can you commit to doing that? Thank you very much. I will end with this. Charlie Kirk is not dead because of what he said. Charlie Kirk is dead because people listened. He set up a tent that said, "Prove me wrong," and exercised his First Amendment right. That's all he did. And we will continue to do so in this country in order to preserve this constitutional republic. With that, I yield back. Thank you.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman.
Investigate Trump. It was the vehicle by which partisan FBI agents and Department of Justice prosecutors could achieve their partisan ends and improperly investigate the entire Republican political apparatus. So today, Senator Johnson and I are making these records public for the entire country to see, and I hope a lot of people are interested in seeing what government can do when various agencies have a political agenda. My investigative work has also exposed the political way in which Peter Navarro was investigated and prosecuted. When FBI agent Tebow found out that Biden's DOJ would prosecute Navarro, he said, "Wow, great." That's a quote, unquote. Through whistleblowers, I've obtained an audio recording of Special Agent Giardina and Special Agent Sebastian Gardner's delivery of a subpoena to Navarro. I'm making that audio public today. In a court document filed by the Department of Justice, Navarro's interaction with the FBI was unfairly described as quote unquote the word combative. That intervention with Navarro was just as the justification to later aggressively arrest him. Then we get to the Clinton Annex and the Durham Annex. The Clinton Annex showed that the Comey FBI had evidence necessary to complete the Clinton investigation, the one about her mishandling of emails and classified information. But the FBI never did its job because it never reviewed the evidence at that time. The Durbin Annex showed that the Clinton campaign had a plan to falsify Trump to Russia. Yet the Comey FBI failed to investigate that. Instead, the Comey FBI used the discredited Clinton campaign-funded Steele dossier to advance crossfire hurricane against Trump. Director Patel, thanks in large part to you, both annexes were kindly classified. That may be history, but it's history to make sure we don't repeat the history of the past. And the people ought to be concerned when the weaponization of government is used in this way, whether it's done by Republicans or Democrats.
Sarah sends her regards.
Last Congress, I made public an FBI document called 1023 that alleged a bribery scheme with the Biden family. To date, the FBI has never answered Congress whether they investigated the text messages, the audio files, and the financial records referenced in that 1023. Whistleblowers have provided my office with 2 additional FBI 1023 documents. These documents memorialize statements from FBI sources. These 2 new 1023 documents are from separate FBI confidential human sources during different years. So in total, we now have 3 different FBI confidential human sources providing information about the Biden family and potential criminal conduct. Today, Senator Johnson and I are speaking. Let me say this for the partisan media, the people that are supposed to be policemen of our Republican form of government. We aren't saying the allegations are true. We want to know what the FBI did to fully investigate their veracity or lack thereof and what they concluded. Let's put this matter to rest one way or the other. Starting with my chairmanship, I give them one example after another of disgraceful partisan weaponization by federal law enforcement. Since the Trump administration, many FBI agents have been removed. The removal included agents and prosecutors who became partisan weapons that lost their way, and I've made records public to prove it. And many of my whistleblowers were aggressively retaliated against by some FBI agents who were subsequently fired. One FBI whistleblower publicly said of these terminations, quote, ensuring that they no longer work at the FBI isn't retribution, it's responsible leadership, end of quote. Which brings me to my final and favorite topic, whistleblowers. In August, 10 of my FBI whistleblowers secured compensation agreement because of your leadership. It included a mix of reinstatement to the FBI, reinstatement of security clearances, and monetary compensation. At the beginning of this month, another of my FBI whistleblowers got their job back. All told, across government agencies, almost 20 whistleblowers have received fixes to their retaliation.
So close.
Today,
big chance.
You'll get a lot of grief from some members of this committee. But in the short amount of time you've been director, you've corrected whistleblower retaliation, increased transparency more than any other FBI director I believe, whether that FBI director was appointed by Republicans or Democrats. And I've been around here more than anybody else on this committee. I yield to Senator Gilman.
Thanks, Chairman Grassley, for holding this oversight hearing during a critical period in the history of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. During my 4 years as chair, I held 4 hearings with then FBI Director Wray. As a reminder to Republicans who claim the Biden administration weaponized the FBI, President Biden retained Director Wray, a lifelong Republican who was President Trump's nominee for the office. After his second election in an unprecedented move, President Trump forced out Director Wray and nominated Kash Patel, arguably the most partisan FBI director ever. Director Patel came to the FBI with a political mission, and he spelled it out in writing in detail.
But it does help.
He wrote government gangsters, quote, "The rot at the core of the FBI is not just scandalous, it's an existential threat to our Republican form of government," end quote. And with the power of his office and the blessings of the president, he attacked the FBI with a vengeance. Mr. Patel had falsely claimed the FBI, quote, "was planning January 6th for a year," end quote. He even went so far as to produce a song by the January 6th rioters who violently assaulted police officers in the Capitol. He compiled an enemies list of public servants he called government gangsters, from former FBI Director Mueller, who Patel called, quote, "an utter swamp creature." Former Trump officials who served with Mr. Patel warned us he would weaponize the FBI to protect the president's allies and target his critics. And indeed, Director Patel has already inflicted untold damage on the FBI, putting our national security and public safety at risk. Since January 20th, the Trump administration has engaged in an unprecedented purge of FBI officials. As we heard from highly credible whistleblowers, Mr. Patel was involved in directing this purge even before he was confirmed, despite his sworn testimony to this committee. It began with terminations and forced retirements of all 6 nonpartisan career officials who run all 6 branches of the FBI, and assistant directors. Since then, at least 18 of the 53 special agents in charge of FBI field have been removed, along with many other senior officials. Individual agents have been targeted for termination simply due to the work that they were assigned, such as January 6th investigation. In fact, according to former acting FBI Director Brian Driscoll, in a lawsuit filed last week, Director Patel made this very plain, telling Driscoll personally, quote, that his own job depended on the removal of agents who worked on the cases against the president, end quote. And even though he knew, quote, the nature of summary findings was likely to be legal. At the same time, Director Patel has installed neither loyalists as political appointees in key career positions, including conspiracy theories, FBI director. The first time in the history of the FBI that this position has not been held by a career FBI agent. Director Patel has also reportedly initiated loyalty tests, requiring dozens of officials to sit for polygraph exams and answer inappropriate questions about whether they've made negative comments about him personally. Of course, as is often the case in the Trump administration, the rules apply to thee, not to me. As we understand from highly credible sources, key members of the senior executive team and others on the scene had disqualifying alerts on their initial polygraph exam. Well, how did they survive? They survived because of personal waiver by either the director or the attorney general to remain employed by the Bureau. Understand the context here. Political operatives in key positions, given the routine FBI polygraph exam, failed and had to receive waivers to continue their positions. They were lucky to keep their political appointments. They were. Of the 5,000 career civil servants, the director so far forced out of the Bureau's ranks were not offered that same courtesy. 5,000. This mass exodus has created disastrous brain drain, particularly in the fields of cybersecurity, counterterrorism, and counterintelligence. For example, my office has received information that cuts to the Bureau's cyber division will cut personnel by half,
Destiny awaits.
despite the ever-increasing threats posed by adverse foreign actors. The brain drain is exacerbated by Director Patel's misuse of remaining FBI personnel resources to focus on other priorities of his administration. According to reports, the 25 largest FBI field offices have been ordered to divert 45% of their agents from their primary missions to work on the mass deportation. Just as concerning as the fewer qualified by removing the college degree requirement and reducing the years of training from 18 weeks to just 8. So we had a brain drain and a significant water drain of training. Quite a record, Mr. Patel. Has recently fired special agents and others have warned fast-tracking, inexperienced, and improperly trained people in critical national security jeopardizes the Bureau's ability to effectively protect America. Director Patel himself had no training or life experience for this position. The result of that incompetence is staggering. For example, after Attorney General Biden publicly stated in February that Epstein list was, quote, sitting on my desk right now to review, Director Patel diverted more than 1,000 FBI personnel from critical missions to work on 24-hour shifts reviewing over 100,000 pages of Epstein-related documents. These personnel were instructed to flag any records in which President Trump was named. But that review ended in an unsigned memorandum from DOJ and FBI stating simply, there is no incriminating client list, close quote. Director Patel still has not responded to my letter from 2 months ago asking about his role in this cover-up. On the day of the horrific shooting at Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University, Director Patel again sparked mass confusion by incorrectly claiming on social media that the shooter was in custody, which he then had to walk back with another social media post. Mr. Patel was so anxious to take credit for finding Mr. Kirk's assassin that he violated one of the basics of effective law enforcement. At critical stages of an investigation, shut up and let the professionals do their job. Notably, Director Patel recently forced out Special Agent Charles City, Mayim Syed, a counterterrorism expert with 20 years experience, who would have led this high-profile investigation. The men and women who serve at the FBI and the American people deserve a director who has the ability and the character to restore the Bureau to its place as the preeminent law enforcement agency. I want to close on a personal note. I came of age in the 1960s. We experienced a number of horrific assassinations, including President John Kennedy, Senator Robert Fisk, and Dr. Martin Luther King.
By the eye of the
This is real firepower! All of us, both sides of the aisle, have a responsibility to bring down the temperature and to work to unite the American people. Let's be clear. Republicans are not Nazis, and Democrats are not evil, as Mr. Patel has claimed. Democrats are not responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk, and Republicans were not responsible for the murder of Melissa. I require some aid. Our political opponents are not our enemies. We are all Americans, and we should be working together to keep the American people safe.
Feel the wrath of the goddess!
We'll have to keep fighting until we have a winner.
Our adversary's gathered.
You have earned your
Thank you.
You can't
Morning, Mr.
expect
Chairman.
to win them all.
Members of the committee. It's an honor to be here with you today as the ninth director of justice. I want to provide by providing a brief strategy. It's important that this FBI is transparent as possible without jeopardizing the investigation. Charlie Kirk was shot at 12:23 p.m. on September 10th. I think this timeline is critically important. Less than a day later, the FBI, at my direction, released the first identification of the suspect that we captured based on our analysis on the ground. Later that evening, while conducting extensive interviews and
Pick your hero
self-analysis and also
or villain. I'm not
flying out
judging.
evidence response teams and hostage rescue teams and evidence tacticians who were collecting evidence in live time and flying them back to Washington, D.C. in our laboratories for immediate analyses.
You don't
We
have
were
to
able
be a
to
witch to find the magic
extract
in
video
this world.
from the campus
But it
feed,
does help.
and at my direction at 8 p.m., in partnership and promise to working with the public to bring this fugitive to justice, we released a newly, never before seen video of the suspect. We also released new enhanced photos of the suspect. A 2 hours later,
The multiverse
suspect
offers
was in custody.
endless possibilities.
Pursuant to the
But
interrogation,
only
the
if it
suspect's
survives
father
this.
was
You don't
stated,
have to be a
when
witch
I
to
saw
find
that
the
video
magic
that
in
you
30
released,
seconds before you
I
attack.
recognized it
Get
was
ready.
my son, and I confronted him, and he was handed over to lawful law enforcement
Your
authorities.
idealism
That is the
refreshes a
FBI working
battered
with the
old
public
soul.
as I promised,
You can't
being
be that
transparent, and providing critical
Astral
information
projection
along the
makes
way
me
in
feel
the manhunt for the suspects involved in Charlie's assassination. We received over 11,000 tips in the first 24 hours alone. We received 16,000
battle starts in
for
5,
digital media enterprise
4,
and tip lines.
3,
That is a
2,
large number
1.
of material.
All you need to do is capture the mission area.
Trump and the
Got
Attorney
it?
General and Bonnie for their unwavering support
Sorry, whose butt
in all
exactly are
investigations.
we
I also want
kicking?
to especially
I
thank
got
our
this
colleagues in
villain's
Utah,
trivia
the
deck.
governor's office,
The mission area is yours to capture now. Control.
and many more people I don't have time to speak here today.
Bogies coming up
But I
behind.
do want to thank
Here
the
is the
American
prize.
people.
The mission area is
The
yours.
mission of the FBI is for them.
Chaos from the depths.
Through them.
Feeling stronger already.
The last time I appeared before this I told you that
Our enemies are near.
promise to provide the courageous
I am ready to put on a show.
23,000 violent criminals. Twice. At the same time period from last year. 23,000. More than twice.
Captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
Taken over 6,000 illegal firearms. That number is an We've identified and located more than 4,700 child victims. More than 4,700 child victims have been found by this FBI. That is a 35% increase from the same time period last year. 1,500 child predators have been arrested. That's a 5% increase from the same time period. 300 human traffickers have been arrested. That's a 10% increase from the same time last year. Over 350 members of Trenday Raga, the foreign terrorist organization, have been arrested. There are 42 ongoing cases. That is a 250% increase from the same time last year. Those are just some of the things the FBI is doing to get the people better, because we are leading the mission to crush violent crime. We have also arrested captured 4 top 10 fugitives in the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. To put that in perspective, that's the same amount I've captured in 7 months than my predecessor did during the entirety of the Biden administration. Those are real results, and the credit is to the men and women at the FBI. We've been able to achieve these results because the FBI recognizes violent crime doesn't just happen
There's
in
no
Washington,
reason
D.C.
to be afraid of
That's
my
why one of my
magic.
first decisions as
Unless you
director was
give
to
me
get the people, the Bureau's professional staff, out to the field. And we've done that with great speed. And every single one of your districts and states has received a
30
plus-up
seconds
of
before you
FBI
attack.
personnel, agents,
Get
and
ready.
special operators, to the tune of almost 1,000.
Protective shield. Perfect.
We did that because crime had unexpectedly and unacceptably exploded across the country.
There's an organ called a brain, Ultron.
In fact,
It created you.
one of the stats
And I know that drives
that the
you
American
crazy.
people should thank the FBI the most for is we are on track to have the lowest murder rate
The
in
battle
modern
starts
American
in 5,
history.
4,
The lowest
3,
murder rate by a
2,
double-digit percentage.
1. All you need to do is capture
A major
the mission
factor in
area.
the drop of this
Got
violent
it?
crime is the FBI's flagship Operation
call
Summer
me
Heat.
arrogant. Mostly
We
they're
used
jealous.
this initiative at the direction of the President and the Attorney General, surging resources to our major and mid-major cities across America, conducting intelligence-based operations to target the worst of the worst, to target the gangs, to target the transnational organizations, to target the TCA, and to target the drug trafficking cartels. And we have taken them out city by city. There's a lot of work left to be done, but we're off to a great start. Just ask the citizens of Seattle, Miami, Memphis, Charlotte, Chicago, so many more places. Specifically in New Orleans and Nashville alone, there has been an increase in the number of violent crime arrests by an average of 250% for each of those cities. And there has been a drastic reduction in crime across the board in mid-major cities across this country. How are we doing that? We are attacking the drug epidemic. We've seized nearly 1,000 kilograms of meth since on the streets. We've taken over 1,600 kilograms of fentanyl off the street. Maybe one of the greatest achievements we have this year. 1,600 kilograms of fentanyl. That's a 25% increase from the same time last year. To put things in perspective, that's enough fentanyl to kill a third of the American population. 115 million Americans. We're also going after the companies that manufacture these precursors overseas in places like mainland China and their companies. In fact, this month in Cincinnati, we announced groundbreaking charges aimed at the individuals and businesses responsible for flooding these opioids and precursors and cutting agents into the streets. And for the first time that I can remember, we are charging these businesses and enterprises, not just in America, but in mainland China, and seizing their operational necessities for the seizing of cryptocurrency. We're also equally important to protecting the homeland. Committed to keeping our nation safe from terrorism, cyber attacks, and foreign adversaries. Whether stopping threats inspired by foreign terrorist organizations, or known risk actors, or sponsored by hostile nations. This year, we've already made nearly 60 counterintelligence arrests. 60 counterintelligence arrests this year alone, with a 30% increase from the same time period last year for the CIA and the FBI. I'm proud when we can share our successes, such as when an espionage charge was brought against an active-duty U.S. Navy sailor caught spying for the People's Republic of China. But I want the American people to know the FBI is protecting the homeland from foreign adversaries in a way that will never make the news, and a lot of the good work that they do will never be able to be discussed in this setting. We're working on cyber threats. We're attacking malware infrastructure, going after ransomware attackers, delivering a new partnership with the private-public sector engagements we've taken with the companies who are attacked by these foreign adversaries and nation-state actors and individual enterprise rings from around the world. We're combating Salt Typhoon, Vault Typhoon, Flax Typhoon, and so many other ransomware cyber threats.
Your fate is sealed.
We're also arresting people such as Tajik National in Brooklyn, who is suspected of sending tens of thousands of dollars to support ISIS. We're going after the new form of what I refer to as modern-day terrorism in America, 764 crimes that involve harming our children by going after them online, causing self-mutilation, suicide, sexual abuse, and steering them in the wrong direction. Currently, we have 3,500 international terrorism investigations. Specifically, we have in this country 1,700 domestic terrorism investigations, a large chunk of which are nihilistic violent extremism, NVE. Those who engage in violent acts motivated by a deep hatred of society, whatever that justification they seem is. The FBI has seen a 300% increase in cases opened this year alone versus the same time last year. In the last couple of months, the FBI secured a guilty plea for a man in Tennessee who attacked an energy facility with drones and explosives. We secured the indictment of violent Sinaloa cartel faction leader in Chicago and narco-terrorism charges. The folks in Sacramento collaborated with domestic partners to secure a guilty plea for leader of a transnational terrorist organization who solicited the murder of federal officials. But the Bureau's job is not done. I'm committed to this transparency. Mr. Chairman, you alluded to our work with Congress. To date, in the 7 months that I've been FBI director, we have produced 33,000 pages to the United States Congress, 33,000 pages. Just to put that in perspective, my predecessor in his 7-year term issued 13,000 pages to Congress. And his predecessor in his 4-year term issued 3,000 pages to Congress. I've issued 33,000 pages in 7 months.
This was inevitable.
Dedicated to restoring the trust that the public has and needs in the integrity of the FBI, and it's being done every day by the men and women of the FBI. Now, I know that there's a lot of talk about Epstein, and I'm here to testify that the original sin in the Epstein case was the way it was initially brought by Mr. Epstein back in 2006. The original case involved a very limited search warrant or set of search warrants. It didn't take as much investigatory material as it should have seized. If I were the FBI director then, it wouldn't have happened. The search warrants were limited to small time periods to include 2002 to 2005 and 1997 to 2001. Mr. Acosta allowed Epstein to enter in 2008 to a plea and non-prosecution agreement, which then the courts issued mandates and protective orders legally prohibiting anyone from ever seeing that material ever again without the permission of the court. The non-prosecution agreements also barred future prosecutions for those involved at that time of those individuals. Still, this administration, at the direction of President Trump, has done more to turn over all the credible information we are legally able to do so, and we will continue to work with Congress to achieve that end. Under the direction of the President, thank you for your support for our mission to working to jointly deliver transparency and congressional oversight to the United States. Lastly, I want to close with the President's initiative here in Washington, D.C. as an example of what we're doing around the country. And I think our next city is Memphis. 21,000 arrests in D.C. with our federal partners. A huge decrease in violent crime. 60% decrease in gun crimes in Washington, D.C. in the last month. 74% decrease in carjacking in Washington, D.C.
I am ready to put on a show.
53% decrease in Washington, D.C. in the last month. The drugs are disappearing. People are freely walking around the state and we're restoring the nation's capital. That work is through the interagency process that the FBI is trying to be a part of, and the initiatives spearheaded by President Trump. And perhaps most notably for investigations in Washington itself, it was the intelligence that the FBI gathered through our source network here in D.C. that helped us identify the suspects in the horrific murder of the D.C. intern Eric Tarpinian. We're proud to be a part of that investigation. We're proud to put the resources to bear of the FBI. And in closing, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, and Ranking Member Durbin, I'm honored to be the 9th director of the FBI. I'm not going anywhere. If you want to criticize my 16
By the eye of Agamotto! Fantastic! Ha! Ha! Whoa!
Anyone willing to help?
I've observed whether it's Republican or Democrat, yes or no answer, that witness and the senators talking over each other. So I thought what I'd do this time rather than have that happen.
I am ready to put on a show.
Because the Republican and Democrat senators, before we get done with that questioner, I'd give you a chance to fill in if there's something you didn't get a chance to say. Since 2019, I've sought greater transparency about Jeffrey Epstein and the government handling of the matter. I've continued to investigate during this Congress. Director Kell, was Jeffrey Epstein an intelligence asset for the United States government or the foreign government? And if so, which agencies or government?
Mr. Chairman, I can
Would you commit to providing my office with all classified and unclassified records relating to the Epstein matter?
Second chance is over.
I will commit to providing all records I'm legally permitted to do so.
It seems to me that I checked your answer to my question that the broader intelligence community ought to play well. Victims deserve an answer. Regarding the initial FBI 1023 document that I made public last Congress, that document mentions 1, text messages, 2, audio recording, and 3, financial records that allegedly proved a bribery scheme scheme with the Biden family and foreign interests. Regarding those records, did the Ray FBI make any effort to determine whether they existed? Did the Ray FBI make any effort to obtain those records?
By the eye of Agamotto!
Since this matter has been fully investigated, the FBI has an obligation to the public to do exactly that and figure out why it was investigated. Next question, I've done a lot of oversight relating to sexual misconduct by the FBI agents. In fact, I believe this is something I discussed with Ray, one of his appearances before this committee. According to the FBI Inspection Division, it opened nearly 300 investigations based on sexual misconduct referrals between 2017 and 2024. According to whistleblowers, the Biden-Ray FBI totally dropped the ball on this question. One credible accusation of sexual misconduct is too many, of course. Are you committed to reviewing the Bureau's policies to ensure responsible responses to credible allegations of misconduct, that they're swift and adequately protect victims?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Relating to a similar subject, during child crimes and sexual misconduct related investigations, are any private sector companies less than cooperative with you? What improvements in information sharing need to be made to catch those criminals?
Mr. Chairman, we can always do better with the private sector companies.
As Congressman Kurt Tennier, is the Bureau's expanded role in low-level, non-criminal immigration enforcement. I'm
happy to discuss, possible legislation that we can do to allow for these companies to continue.
Maybe 1 inch up on the microphone.
I feel better already.
Director Bell, since 2021, I've raised concerns about the Biden administration's failure to properly vet Afghan evacuees. Director Gabbard informed my office that as of August 2022, approximately 1,600 evacuees located in the United States had ties to terrorism and other derogatory information. That's why I and many others have opposed bills giving blanket approval. Are you aware of what steps your predecessor took to investigate these evacuees? And what steps have you taken to investigate them? And what, if any, national security concerns still exist?
Pick up your toys.
Mr. Chairman, I can't speak to the steps my predecessor took, but I will make sure we do a sweeping review and get back to you on that. As far as the Afghan refugees and evacuees, during my tenure, we are going through the databases to make sure that no known or suspected terrorists enter this country to harm our nation. And also, with my resolve as FBI director, the first acts we undertook was one of the Abbey bombers of Lee's that killed 13 brave Americans. And within two weeks, we caught one of the leaders of the Abbey bomber and brought him to justice here 2 weeks from Pakistan. And so my commitment to you on Afghanistan and all matters is complete and without border.
Through my and other investigations, we found that the Biden administration lost thousands of undocumented children. We never heard a peep from senators wanting to help find them, even after I invited them to do so. September 2025, the Trump Health and Human Services announced the creation of an interagency crime coordinator cell to find these and other missing children. That interagency group
By the eye of Agamotto!
agency. What resources or personnel have the FBI assigned to this new interagency effort, and what steps have the FBI taken to assist in locating missing children that the incompetent Biden administration lost?
Well, you can't expect to win
Protecting
them
our
all.
youth is maybe the top priority for the FBI. As it specifically relates to your question, Mr. Chairman, as I stated, we've surged resources not just for this cell, but across the nation to our FBI's field office to locate children who have been trafficked, who have been victims of sexual abuse. And we have located 4,700 children in the 7 months since I've been FBI director. And that is a 35% increase from the same time period last year. And we're not stopping, and we're committed to doing that work on our tribal lands as well. And we are finding victims of child trafficking and child abuse every county and every district, and we're not going to stop.
As I mentioned during my opening, I'm releasing documents with Senator Johnson about Arctic Cross. Specifically, the documents show its scope expanded to include 92 Republican organizations. From evidence that I've seen, it looks to me like another political hit job against Republicans. What steps is the FBI taking to make sure improperly predicated investigations and weaponizations like this don't happen again?
Change humanity for the
Simple
better.
answer, Mr. Chairman, is the
time
FBI
has
will
come.
only bring cases that are based in fact and law and have a legal basis to do so.
30 seconds before
And
you
anyone
attack.
that does
Get
otherwise
ready.
will not be employed at the FBI. We are doing a prospective and retrospective
That's a nice
analysis of
armor you got there,
individuals who
sweetheart.
may have
How
weaponized
much
the
you want
department
for it?
and the agency.
Law,
And as I've committed
rocket.
to you during my
Do you know
confirmation
Spider is
hearing
for
and my
sale?
conversations with
How
you,
about just one
this
arm?
FBI will not
No?
be weaponized anymore
come
in
on.
either side of the aisle.
Killing me, kid.
In
Not
June of this
yet,
year,
but
I
I'd be
raised
careful
concerns
if I were
about
you.
the FBI's use of
The battle starts in
restricted
5,
access
4,
and
3,
prohibited
2,
access systems.
1.
According to
All you
the
need to do is
FBI,
capture
quote,
the mission
when
area.
search
Got it?
teams
Must start doing
search
schemes
teams
before
that
reality
exist
unravels around
in a
us.
prohibited access status cases are searched in Sentinel. The particular search will receive a false negative search response. End of quote. Clearly, this only affects FBI agents, it impacts congressional requests and court cases, and the Biden administration used it to thwart oversight. How are you ensuring that restricted access and prohibited access files are produced to Congress during court cases? And have you identified any Biden family records with restricted and prohibited status?
As I've committed to you with my transparency initiative, whether it's restricted or prohibited, every single thing I can legally provide to Congress and the bill. We've also restructured how these restricted and prohibited cases are labeled and provided access to more people in the chain of command so that more people have knowledge of what these restricted and prohibited cases are, including myself. I do, sir.
You publicly said that your team, quote, found a room that Comey and others hid from the world in the Hoover building full of documents and computer hard drives no one had ever seen or heard of. That's a quote from you. I've received a whistleblower disclosure that the room contained some information kept outside the FBI record keeping. I also have been informed via whistleblower disclosure that the room included materials related to Special Counsel Mueller, former Director James Comey, and other documents maintained outside of the FBI. Has the FBI now reviewed and analyzed those records? Has the FBI properly recorded the documents? And these records are clearly responsive to my as well as my colleagues' congressional request. What steps have you taken to ensure all responsive records are produced to Congress? That's what has to be my last question.
What's supposed to happen is leadership at the FBI is supposed to pursue the Records Act. Correctly store these records that are information management. In this room, we found a plethora of hard drives, computers, hard documents, soft documents, that were not supported. The room is not. We are continuing our processing that information. So A, subscribe to the Records Act. Those records will be kept permanently at the FBI. 2, we are reviewing those materials. A lot of those materials are related to ongoing investigations. And 3, we are on a rolling basis providing Congress the documents that we can, and we will continue to do so.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Durbin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, in addition to the extensive purge of nonpartisan career FBI official reports indicate that dozens of remaining officials have been subjected to polygraph exams to test their loyalty. My understanding is approximately 40 officials have been asked to sit for a polygraph during your administration, and several have been
30
asked
seconds before you
whether they
attack.
ever made
Get
negative
ready.
comments about you. Director Patel, FBI agents pledge their loyalty to the Constitution of the United States, not you personally. What is the basis for requiring polygraph exams of your workforce and asking them if they made negative comments about you?
I don't know what reports you're referring to, Ranking Member, and I reject any reporting that has false information in it, so I'm not going to respond to that. As far as polygraphs go, generally they're always and always have been utilized at the FBI to track down those that leak sensitive information and have unauthorized disclosures to the media, and we will continue to use them to ensure the integrity of the FBI.
Did any individual on your senior executive team, director's advisory team, or who serve in the positions on the 7th floor receive disqualifying alerts on the polygraphs?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the personnel discussions that were had on the polygraph or the private discussions, and many of them relate to ongoing investigation.
Did you or Attorney General Bondi provide any individual with a waiver so they can remain employed and receive disqualifying alerts on the polygraph?
I'll have to get back to you.
You don't remember that?
No, sir. My priority is protecting the American public, not getting into the weeds of polygraphs.
And to have a decent memory when you come before the committee.
I'm happy to talk about all the good work the men and women of the FBI are doing, including provided the lowest crime rate in American history. You want to talk about how to protect the citizens of Chicago? I've seen a 30% reduction in its murder rate because of the men and women. I'll happily do that. The interagency partners and the men and women of Chicago PD have never been more powerful.
Include local law enforcement, please.
Have you ever seen my testimony across this country where I always lead with our interagency partnerships with state and local law enforcement? It is the pillar of what I am doing. And on the 7th floor, for the first time in FBI history, I have installed police officers and sheriffs right on my 7th floor to report to us every day what's going around the country on the street level, because that is a priority of the FBI and is the only way we are going to work. I don't take credit for anything, but I will defend the men and women of the FBI and the cops that help us get it done.
You should. Director Patel, to your knowledge, did a whistleblower ever make a disclosure to Attorney General Bondi indicating that the New York field office?
This is real firepower!
I'm not familiar with that whistleblower.
Never miss it.
Not familiar with that whistleblower.
In response to the blowback she received, Attorney General Bondi also pushed the FBI to delete approximately 100,000 Epstein records in an arbitrarily short deadline of March, and the FBI was directed to flag any documents that feel better already. Nothing came of that meeting. Released unsigned memo stating there was no incriminating client. Why was this July 7th?
Born again!
Before I use the autopen. The memorandum had the insignia of the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and in our effort to secure transparency for the American people, because the 3 prior administrations have not done so, we conducted an exhaustive search of everything related to the Epstein cases, and we produced what was legally and permissibly able to be produced to Congress and the American public. And there's a congressional subpoena, and we're continuing to do so.
You personally direct that investigation so that you would sign such a
Did I personally direct what investigation?
the Epstein records for in reference to President Trump.
Again, you are citing reporting that I think is baseless. We conducted an investigation of the Epstein case files pursuant to the direction of the President of the administration to provide all credible information, and we are working with Congress pursuant to a congressional subpoena to turn over all the documents we can. All individuals.
Who at DOJ and FBI was responsible for extracting the conclusion?
Many individuals at the Department of Justice and the FBI are
There was
responsible.
no lead person?
The Attorney General leads the Department of Justice, and I lead the FBI.
So the Attorney General was responsible for that?
The Attorney General leads the Department of Justice.
Director Patel, much like you, Deputy Director Dan Bongino was a conspiracy theorist who built a lucrative career making inflammatory and unsubstantiated statements about the FBI that would be disqualifying in any administration that cared about nonpartisan law enforcement. For instance, Mr. Bongino called the placement of pipe bombs outside the DNC and RNC headquarters
Pick your
on January
hero
6, quote,
or villain,
an
I'm
inside
not
job.
judging.
And went on to say this was a setup. I have zero doubt. And whoever goes into the FBI, you better get an answer about why. Director Patel, you and Deputy Director Bongino are now leading the FBI.
I will bring peace
What is the
to this
evidence to
universe,
suggest
no
the
matter
pipe
the
bombs
cost?
placed outside of the DNC and RNC on January 6 were an inside job?
I appreciate the opportunity to discuss Director Bongino's mind record. So many on this committee and the media jettison our 31 years of public service.
Can
prior
you
to
answer
taking...
the question, sir?
I'm answering the question. You're questioning the integrity of the Deputy Director of the
Asking
FBI
you
and mine.
if you found
And
any
I'm going to
evidence.
answer the question.
I'm
The pipe bomb
asking-
investigation is ongoing, and I'm not going to discuss
Ongoing?
the details of the pipe
30
bomb
seconds before you
investigation.
attack.
Mr.
Get ready.
Bongino was a Secret Service agent for 15 years, a police officer for 5. I served this country in multiple administrations for 16 years. We were also private citizens, and we are now back in government service. And what we have the ability to do is set aside our personal beliefs to deliver the mission of justice for this country, and we're doing it day in and day out. And I find it disgusting that everyone and anyone would jettison our 31 years of combined experience that is now at the helm of the FBI, delivering historic results at historic speed for the American people.
All you need to do is capture the mission area.
So you have no
Got
evidence?
it?
I got a lot of evidence, and I'll give it to you when I can.
Yeah, looking forward to it. There's a New York Times story this morning about Chris Meyer. As I understand it, he was your personal pilot, at least for some period of time. Mr. Meyer has quite a record himself. Flew over 350 hours as an Air Force pilot on 3 aircraft types in Afghanistan. Mr. Jardina, another former FBI agent, a 1999 graduate of U.S. Naval Academy, commanded 100 Marines in combat during the 2003 invasion of Iraq, participated in several firefights, followed up with 2011 deployment with reservists to Afghanistan, where he interrogated senior Taliban officials. It appears that you terminated these 2 agents. Why?
I'm not going to get into personnel decisions that we make.
So you're not accountable for your decisions to take people who serve our country. So adding that you're
That's a one-sided story. Anyone that was terminated
So
from the
tell
FBI,
your- tell
generally
your side
speaking,
of the story.
failed to meet the needs of the FBI and uphold their constitutional duties. And you providing a one-sided story from your perch is absolutely disgraceful, because the men and women of the FBI deserve better. And your attack on the current leadership of the men and women of the FBI is equally disgraceful, because now you're attacking the leaders that are our brave SACs in the
tell you
field
what's
who are
disgraceful.
doing the job that this
Disgraceful.
country needs. And we
disgraceful.
will continue to do it.
Excuse me, it's disgraceful when Mr. Meyer and Mr. Jardina, who served our country so well, are terminated apparently because of the rants podcast.
That is your opinion. It is not a fact.
Well, it's certainly my opinion I can back up with facts. Let me ask you to explain the situation.
I have risen.
Did you read the story
You
about
can
the
count on me.
termination of the
I got
project
a
in
plan.
Baltimore?
Which story?
764 group.
Sorry. Which story?
764 group. Baltimore agents were investigating. Are you familiar with that?
No, sir.
Well, I'm not going to go into detail. It'll take too long to do it. But apparently, this group, 764, a realistic, violent extremist group seeks to blackmail children to perform vile acts on camera. Under investigation by Baltimore, which was terminated by you. I'd like you to respond in writing, if you will, as to the circumstances of that termination.
Sure. Our operations against NBEs has been historically high. We've taken down multiple NBE rings, including 716 rings for harming children and causing them to be mutilated.
Last question. Can you explain why you are eliminating requirements for your agents?
Appreciate the opportunity to address that. You said in your opening statement we are reducing the training requirements at Quantico. We are not. We are expanding them. You are referring to an 1811 crossover program, because I believe the men and women of places like the DEA, the ATF, the Marshal Service, and the Secret Service who want to work at the FBI should deserve that opportunity in a shortened, abridged program, which we provided. We are also keeping the 18-week BFTC as is traditionally held at the FBI. So we're not reducing any requirements. We are increasing those that we bring into the FBI.
Do you change any requirements on college degrees?
We are allowing police officers who have served for a number of years to come into the FBI who did not obtain the requisite college degree to apply to be federal agents because we feel they have the street level experience we need to conduct this mission.
You're ready,
I have to respond to this business about employees' property. I've served under the previous administration.
This is real firepower!
Democrats voted to turn a blind eye to Biden administration's retaliation against my whistleblowers. They didn't get due process when their careers and lives were upended. I'm talking about people like Dina Perkins, Jeffrey Deltree, Timothy Dunnan were removed from their positions. Several whistleblowers were reported
The point.
targeting FBI employees for their political beliefs by suspending and revoking security clearances. One FBI whistleblower said that Perkins, Deltree, Dunnan, and other FBI leaderships were, quote, responsible for what happened to me and my family, ensuring that they no longer work at the FBI isn't responsible leadership. Another whistleblower, Democrats said they spoke out against abuses of the security clearances processes committed by FBI senior leaders, Deltree, Perkins, then Perkins, security clearances and put them in unpaid leave. I'm going to put some more examples like this in the record so I don't take up a lot of time for my colleague, Senator Graham.
Thanks, Senator Graham. Welcome to the committee. The numbers sort of speak for themselves. You've done a lot in a small period of time. So all those folks out there making this happen,
I do the right thing unless the wrong thing is more fun.
How to be an FBI agent, you
calling a
made a
raccoon,
decision
huh?
that local law enforcement folks, people who've served in law enforcement without a college degree are able to apply now.
30
Is that
seconds
correct?
before you attack. Get ready.
Makes sense to me. So experience out in the field might be as valuable as a college degree, believe it or not. Venezuela. We're blowing boats out of the water in the Caribbean because they're connected to international narco-terrorist groups. Is that correct?
Battle starts in 5.
Yes, that mission is being led by the Department of Defense.
2.
What legal authority do we have to do
All
that?
you need to do is capture the mission area.
Sir, I would defer
Got
the
it?
questions on legal authority to the Attorney General and the Department.
Fair enough. Do you believe that Maduro runs a narco-terrorism state in Venezuela based on
I believe based on the intelligence, the prosecution, and investigations we are currently running, a large portion of the cocaine that exists out of South America origination from Venezuela and using transshipment points through Haiti, waterways and surveys for the end state delivery, which is the United States of America. And we will hunt down every single one of those.
There's some actual indictments of Maduro as an individual for being involved in that. Is that correct?
Senator, I think you're referring to the DEA indictment on that.
So I guess the point is, would it be fair to say that Venezuela is a good candidate to be labeled as a state-sponsored terrorism under U.S. law?
Senator, from my part, we will provide the intelligence necessary for anyone who wants to
I think they are, so we'll be going down that road. China, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being nothing, 10 being great, how is China helping with the fentanyl problem?
Under this administration, we have taken, as I highlighted in the Cincinnati case, the precursors are the problem. The fentanyl is the end state that kills American citizens.
Precursors are made in China.
They're made in China. And so for the first time in a decade, I had a call with my counterpart in the MPS, the Ministry of Public Services, to attack the precursor chemical companies and have those chemicals labeled.
Too early to rate the success.
We have indicted multiple businesses. And we've also cut off the transshipment points of those precursors they switched. Once we got on their track about their delivery routes to the Mexican drug cartels directly, they started going to India. We called the Indian authorities, and they shut down those transshipment points. So we're continuing to work with our partners. They are starting to help, and we are hoping, under this administration's leadership, we can get
Let me know in the coming months. They are helping. That's a good thing.
Yes, sir.
We need to celebrate the breakthrough. If they're not, that would be a bad thing. So after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, there seems to be one refrain from everybody. That's about the effect of social media.
Destiny
Do you believe
awaits.
that social media is one of the instruments radicalizing America and inciting violence?
Well, it's not. My belief is based on the data, and the data shows that social media is wildly out of control when it comes to.
You're dead right. What did he just say? This guy's FBI. He says that social media is wildly out of control. Now, free speech, we all agree with that, but you can't yell fire in the theater, right? Free speech doesn't allow you to go online and groom a child for sexual. Free speech doesn't allow you to go on the internet and basically incite somebody to kill another person, right? So if it's illegal offline, it should be illegal online, agree? Whatever the law is.
Yes, sir.
Just because you're online doesn't give you a get out of jail free card. So if a parent is worried about a child being bullied on a website, what rights do they have under U.S. law?
We have to balance the rights, as you said, Senator, of free speech versus those that encroach
Is there
upon
any
violence.
law